Are you in your 20s and asking yourself the question, how can you make your life better than it is? Welcome to the Life Coaching Show. We're going to be taking people in their 20s, give them life coaching, and see what happens. Hopefully, their lives will become awesome. Having said that, I'm relatively new to life coaching other people, so it might all be a total disaster. We will see. If we ruin anyone's life, that would be bad. All going well, we will see people achieve success, health, and happiness. Now, before we start doing the life coaching in a few episodes' time, let's talk to some people about the challenges they face in their 20s. The easiest way to find people in their 20s is to go out onto the street and physically capture them. It's basic kidnapping. It shouldn't be too hard. When that totally fails, I will ask the modelling agency, who provide me with people to go into marketing content, to lend me some people, and then pay them for the rights to use the footage. Not sure what it says about me when I have to pay people to talk to me, but just in case a kidnapping plan fails, it's good to have a backup. We're going to be chatting with two lovely people, a guy near the end of his 20s and a lady who has just completed her 20s and I'm assuming has taken the exam, passed and moved on to the beginning of her 30s. We're going to start off by finding out how their 20s went generally. So you've basically just done all of your 20s. How was it?
Yeah, I think probably like most people, a mix of things, like ups and downs. Definitely like real good experiences and things I'm really proud of to have achieved. I feel like your 20s are a time where you're making a lot of big life decisions and like moving a lot in terms of like your self-development and things like that. But yeah, also things that were really hard, like things that I struggled with for sure.
So how old are you? You 24, is that right?
28, 27, and I'll be 28 soon, yeah.
So you're kind of smack bang in your 20s, but kind of towards the tail end.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Have you liked it?
Yeah, I've liked it. I've had a lot of fun, and like you said, I wasn't really looking to do anything too serious to start with. So early 20s, just traveling, living in different cities, trying new things like what I want to do and stuff like that in terms of work. But yeah, just a lot of traveling. I wasn't really looking to, set my life up. Whereas now, late 20s, I'm starting to think, I better, at least think about, what I want to do in the next 10 years. So yeah,
I mean, I think people's minds just kind of switches.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine's had several switches. So like for me now, when I see some of my staff like progressing and building in confidence, it like makes me so happy. And like the 20-year-old me couldn't have conceived of like, I don't care if someone's building in confidence or getting more competent. It's like, but yeah, now I'm older, I'm like, oh, that's really satisfying to see someone.
Yeah, and I feel like when you're older, like when you like to see people succeed more. Like I've always, been a fan of seeing people achieve their dreams and whatnot, but a lot of younger people tend to be more jealous, if they see someone being successful or achieving something they want. Whereas I think when you get older, you start to think, oh, good for them.
Yeah. Jealous and also quite often just apathetic. Like, they're not me. I don't care if they're successful or not.
Yeah, just think about yourself, really, yeah.
Yeah. The media portrays an image of people in their 20s, an image of shallowness, negativity, entitlement, and mostly bad things. I haven't seen much of this myself. I often find people in their 20s to be pretty on top of things. And as you will see, both the people we are chatting to are positive and come across as well-rounded people. You will see later on in these chats that I foolishly let my questions be influenced by media nonsense. I guess we have to remember that the media's primary role is to engage people with their content. That is how they make their money. Being accurate probably does not make a sustainable business model. That is why, from here on out, everything that I'm going to say will be totally inaccurate. Next, we're going to talk about finances. People love to be able to afford luxuries such as nice food, nice cars, travel, and their own house. But what is it actually like for people in their 20s? Was there financial problems? Because I know, so for example, my parents' generation, money kind of came easy to them. I think my generation was kind of more halfway. But I think a lot of people say that you guys struggled financially. Was that the case or not really?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think with so many things like the cost of living and just like if you're studying, like university fees, things like that, getting into debt so early on in your 20s, especially if you're working in a field that doesn't immediately give you like a huge salary that you can repay that debt, it can be a huge thing to carry that burden like of your studies like with you for the whole of your 20s essentially, and probably into your 30s and 40s now, and maybe into your 50s. But these kind of investments that you're making in your 20s for your career and for your like educational development, these are like really big financial undertakings. And I think especially for industries, you know, aside from the corporate industries, if you're not going into a big corporate firm and doing like a, you know, an entry level corporate job, then if you're in like the creative industries or in the arts or in, if you're going into further study, something like that, then that can be really tricky financially. So yeah, I would say definitely the cost of studying and the cost of living as well.
Right, let me look at my questions. Do you think people in their 20s face many kind of financial problems at the moment?
Yeah, they probably do, to be honest. There's like, obviously with housing is probably the main one. Like people struggling to, you know, afford rent. Obviously rent's gone up, wages haven't gone up as much. And not just rent, obviously buying a house, you need a big deposit. So a lot of people in their 20s are they're probably not the best at saving. Like you said, you start to think about saving more when you're older.
Right. It's also probably harder to save just because food prices and energy prices are so high, and you need those all the time.
Yeah, and obviously when you do think, people do start to think about saving, that's when they probably have more bills, maybe kids and stuff like that. So when people aren't saving in their early 20s, it's probably when the best time to be saving.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Because are your friends kind of around your same age, or do you have a wide variety of ages?
You know, a few years, I did tend to hang out with people like, you know, 5 years older at one point, but, you know, mainly around my age. So.
And like, what percentage of them would you say have houses and are set up living wise?
Yeah, to be honest, not that many. A lot of, you know, every now and then you see like somebody is starting to get a house or so, but definitely more people don't have a house, so they're either renting or some still living with their parents, and then only a small few are actually buying a house, you know.
Right. And I think for like my parents' generation, that they'd mostly been housed up
opposite,
by your age.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, all the older people I know like would get houses, you know, as soon as they sort of settle down with someone, they're moving in, having families early. Whereas now it tends to be, you know, have fun, see what happens, and then people tend to have kids later now as well. So,
not that it's really relevant to people this day and age, but so my granddad, when he was alive, used to look after this lady who was even a lot older than him.
Yeah.
And she, I guess, had lost some of her faculties, but he was trying to explain to her, like, you bought this house for a few £100 and now it's worth over $500,000.
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
And she you know, wasn't impressed by that achievement, but he was like, you know, that's a big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So two questions, which is one, what would you do if you had a lot of money? And two, what do you reckon most people in their 20s would do if they had a lot of money? What would you do if you had?
I'm quite good with my money, to be honest. Like, I've always been a saver. You know, I'm quite frugal with my money. I don't, you know, I'll live on quite low money, then sort of save my money for bigger things. Like when I was younger, I'd sort of spend it trying to go on holiday and that sort of thing. But most people my age tend to get their money, either spend it on the weekend, spend it on holidays, or like the more money they make, the more money they'll spend. Whereas I think for me, the more money I'd make would be the more money I'd save or invest. So I'm okay with my money personally, but yeah, most people my age would tend to just sort of enjoy themselves more. They think, I've got a pay rise, I'll I'll spend more money. I'll buy that new pair of trainers or so, or that new handbag, new car. But
See, you're much better than I was then, because when I was 23, my financial organization system was when the cash machine stopped giving me money,
yeah,
I knew to stop
that's when
spending money,
yeah.
Which was a really, really poor system.
You know, even when I was getting money for my birthday as a kid, like most people go and spend it, I was like, all right, I'll save, instead of spending that now, I'll save up, use my birthday money and Christmas money and buy, you know, something better than rather than just buying something small. So I've always been okay with my money, but obviously back then you didn't have bills and stuff. Now I've got to pay rent, so it's definitely a little.
What would you do if you fell into, let's just say, £10 million?
10 million. Oh, I'd help my mum and dad to start with, you know, give them some money so they haven't got to work. And then I probably would spend a little bit on fun, you know, get myself a nice house, nice car.
Have a hamburger and save the rest.
Nice house, nice car. But, you know, I probably use it to start a business. You know, I've always loved business. So I've had a few ideas of businesses in the future. So I probably use that to try and make more money so that obviously I'm still only in my 20s. I know 10 million's a lot, but if you're spending quite a lot, by the time I was 60, it could have gone down. So I'd rather just make sure I'd use that money to make sure that I'm keeping money flowing in, you know?
And yeah, that's wise. People can blow through 10 million real fast.
Yeah.
And
Like, it is a lot of money, but it also, if you're living a rich, fancy lifestyle, then it can, like, obviously if you buy a nice house, say you bought a house for 5 million, then that's half of it gone. So, I mean, I wouldn't personally do that, but I feel as though a lot of people, you say, here's 10 million, they're like, oh, I'm rich, I haven't got to work. They would buy a house for 5-6 million, buy a nice car for 60 grand, start splashing it every year, holidays, and then all of a sudden in 20 years, they're like, all right, let's go and get a job again.
Yeah. Yeah, might be less than 20 years.
Depends how much fun you have.
maybe they're the ones making the sensible decisions. Who knows? We also chatted about the differences between different types of jobs. The extremes being corporate jobs and arty jobs. The corporate people being much more financially stable, able to own a house and have a regular income. The arty types, not so much. If having money is important to you, then here are 3 questions you should ask yourself when choosing a career. Let's first look at the questions and then talk about each one afterwards. Question 1. What do you like doing that very few other people like doing? Question 2. How can you tell what you have the potential to be good at? Question 3. Which small but expanding companies are in a growing market? Of course, there are many other relevant questions, but these are certainly 3 good ones. Some of the other questions need a whole video for themselves, so for now, let's just go through these 3. First question. What do you like doing that very few other people like doing? Market demand pushes salaries up for jobs which no one wants to do. For example, I know of jobs which involve insulating underneath the floors of buildings. The jobs involves crawling around in horrible small spaces with dead rats and spraying on insulating foam. Some of those contractors get paid more than lawyers, doctors, and other typically high-paying professions. The reason is simple. Few people want to do that job. The job doesn't take years of training, and if you like things like caving, physical activities, and hard work, then you're going to be earning a lot of money doing something you enjoy. Also, liking your job in general can contribute to earning money in lots of different ways. Next question. How can you tell what you have the potential to be good at? In general, there is a correlation between how good you are at doing something and how much you can earn compared to other people doing that same thing. As humans, we are not very good at accurately assessing what we are good at and what we can be good at. I'm going to give some generalized advice here, which is different for men and women. I used to do a lot of maths and physics private tutoring, and I noticed a marked difference in how men and women reacted to completing a practice exam. Often, if the men did an exam and they got a few questions right, they thought they were a world-class genius, even if the score they got was low. On the other extreme, if women got a few questions wrong, they thought they were a hopeless idiot even if their overall score was high. It was not always that way round, but certainly in the vast majority of cases. On average, I didn't see a difference in skill level at maths between men and women. However, the attitude was very different. This is a problem. If you think you are good at something, or could be good at something, and you were wrong, your time would have been better spent pursuing a career that you'd have actually been good at. Equally, if you don't pursue a career because you incorrectly think you will not be good at it, that is a wasted opportunity. The solution is to, wherever possible, get impartial advice. Generally avoid advice from family or friends. They will probably think you are amazing. Teachers, career advisors, and professionals in that field often have a lot of experience of working out what people will be good at. Let's look at the final question. Which small but expanding companies are in a growing market? It is much easier to get promotions and pay rises in expanding companies that are in a growing market. As long as you are competent, working hard, and getting results, you will float on the top. Let the market and the company ethos work for you. So that is my first ever YouTube episode, and I think we can all agree it was pretty good. I got a few things right, therefore I must be a world-class genius at YouTube. Next episode, we're going to be covering why we might want to help people who are in their 20s. What, if anything, is so special about you guys? And we'll be chatting about general happiness.